Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly want to echo the words of our many colleagues who pointed out the hard work that's gone into this bipartisan bill. I appreciate the several provisions in it already work to address some of my concerns.
Mr. Huffman, we'll make sure we go through the procedure. Is there an amendment at the desk?
I have an amendment.
Yes, there is. But is clerk designated? I want to make sure you get a number.
Amendment number 116, offered by Mr. Huffman.
Without objection, or designated, the gentleman's recognized to speak on.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. So the bill already does work to address many of my concerns. It provides important aid to communities affected by wildfires. Communities like those that I represent in Northern California still recovering right now from one of the most destructive fires in our country's history. It's not enough to just wait for disaster to strike, and this bill includes important provisions to help communities be more proactive. Of the 21 fatalities identified in Sonoma County, which I represent along with Mike Thompson, 18 were at least 67 years of age, and that demonstrates how vulnerable the elderly population is to sudden disasters like the October wildfires that ripped through our community. So Section 205 of this bill specifically mentions paying attention to special populations like the elderly, the homeless, the disabled when we're planning evacuation routes. I really appreciate that. I hope we can build on these provisions so the communities can better plan for their needs in an emergency in addition to just evacuation routes. My amendment is another way that we can be more proactive in addressing natural disasters like wildfires. This amendment actually is comprised of language that has already passed the House with Republican support. It amends the Stafford Act to allow wildfires to be designated as major disasters, and that provides agencies with additional funding through the Disaster Relief Fund to fight fires and to protect communities. The problem is under current law, when the Interior and Ag departments are fighting fires but have exhausted their wildfire suppression budgets, they have to borrow from other accounts, robbing their important programs of the resources they need. This is not a sustainable solution, which is why for years many of us have worked together advocating a fix to the way we budget for wildfire suppression. To fully fix the problem would require something like the Bipartisan Wildfire Disaster Funding Act, which is beyond the scope of this committee, and I acknowledge that, Mr. Chairman. Although my amendment does not represent a complete or a perfect fix to the fire borrowing problem, it is something that this committee can do right now to make progress to help resolve the wildfire suppression budget problem facing our federal land management agencies. So I urge its adoption, and I hope that we can develop it further together as the bill moves to the floor so that we can finally solve this fire borrowing problem and make our communities safer. I appreciate the time, and I yield back.
I thank the gentleman for offering this amendment.